What if I told you your fat cells aren't just storing energy? They're factories that recycle your entire body when you fast. Stick with me because unlocking this hidden machinery might be the key to finally reversing metabolic disease. Hey everybody, my name is Mark Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this is a video on fat cells are cellular recycling factories. Okay, so let's get into it. So fat cells aren't just passive storage containers waiting to release energy during fasting. They're complex cellular factories with sophisticated recycling systems that dismantle and repurpose entire molecular structures when activated. This fundamental misunderstanding of adipose tissue has shaped how practitioners approach fasting protocols, often missing the intricate cellular processes that determine success or failure. When fat cells mobilize during fasting periods, they don't simply break down triglycerides into fatty acids and glycerol. The entire cellular architecture gets systematically dismantled and recycled. So what does this mean? So you have a molecular switch that activates the cellular factories. The transition from storage mode to recycling mode depends on a precise molecular switch involving three key players: mTOR, AMPK, and ULK1. In the fed state, that means when you have extra carbohydrates, high glucose levels trigger insulin secretion. Insulin activates mTOR, which suppresses autophagy and phosphorylating and inhibits ULK1, the kinase initial for initiating cellular recycling. When food intake stops and glucose levels fall, insulin drops. This relieves mTOR's inhibitory effect on ULK1. Simultaneously, AMPK becomes activated by the low energy state, or the low glucose state. AMPK directly activates ULK1 through phosphorylation of specific serine residues, while also inhibiting mTOR. This molecular cascade transforms fat cells from growth-focused storage units into active recycling facilities. Okay, so once again here, so the main thing here is you got to get out of that glucose state, stop the insulin, and you can do that. Now, fasting is the easiest way to do this, though there are ways of eating that do not produce insulin that you can also use, but that's a different story. We're just talking about fasting here. Okay, so what gets recycled beyond stored fat? Well, quite a bit. So the cellular factory metaphor becomes literal when examining what components actually get processed during fasting. The glycolycs, a complex layer of sugar-decorated proteins covering fat cells, provides amino acids when broken down. These glycosylated proteins serve essential functions in cell signaling and immune recognition, but damaged versions get tagged for removal. Cell membrane proteins and internal organelles contribute additional amino acids and substrates for energy production or new protein synthesis. Signaling molecules that regulate metabolism and communicate with other organs also get recycled, potentially explaining why some individuals experience increased energy rather than depletion of energy during extended fasts. And yes, I've experienced that myself. Okay, and mitochondrial recycling through mitophagy selectively degrades defective mitochondria while preserving or producing healthy ones to maintain energy production. This comprehensive recycling process extends far beyond simple fat breakdown, providing substrates that support cellular maintenance and energy needs. So we have this paradox, though, of damaged cellular infrastructure. Individuals with poor glucose control, right, present a fascinating clinical contradiction. High glucose levels cause extensive glycation damage to glycolycs, proteins, and other cellular components, theoretically creating abundant recyclable material during fasting periods. Yet these same individuals typically struggle most with fasting protocols. The paradox stems from impaired cellular recovery machinery. Ages, right, have been shown to impair autophagy, right? Uh, these are advanced glycation end products that are based on glucose, and they attach to the cells. The cellular process responsible for recycling damaged components, right? So if you have lots of ages attached to your cells, you're not going to get that autophagy you're looking for. Insulin resistance, mitochondrial dysfunction, and chronic inflammation reduce autophagy efficiency and disrupt cellular recycling pathways in metabolically compromised individuals, which is one of the reasons why before you start fasting, reduce stress, you try to get yourself into a ketogenic state so that you know you're fat burning, which gets you out of that glucose area range, right? High insulin levels in insulin-resistant patients inhibit lipolysis and autophagy, blocking access to fat stores and cellular recycling despite abundant damaged material. This creates a stuck metabolic state where the body cannot effectively switch to fat burning and autophagy during fasting, causing fatigue and difficulty sustaining fasts. Okay? I wouldn't, if you're coming from a high carb diet into a ketogenic carnivore diet, I wouldn't suggest necessarily fasting right away. You need to get your body healthy before you can fast effectively. Okay? Progressive training of cellular recycling systems. And this is part of the reason. The solution involves restoring cellular recycling machinery before demanding peak performance from damaged systems, right? For metabolically compromised individuals, shorter intermittent fasting windows of 12 to 16 hours gently stimulate autophagy without overwhelming impaired systems. So definitely don't go onto like a 72-hour fast, which is absolutely wonderful if you can do it. But don't do that until you have gotten into a state of ketosis and have done quite a few shorter intermittent fasting windows of 12 to 16 hours, right? This approach allows gradual upregulation of autophagy pathways and metabolic flexibility as tolerance improves. Nutritional support with nutrients that enhance mitochondrial health and autophagy, including polyphenols, omega-3 fatty acids, and specific amino acids, supports this restoration process. Now, the polyphenols do come from plant sources, and for a targeted supplementation can be very helpful. Long term, I don't think they do much for you, but once again, for targeted, specific time frames, having some supplementations can help. Reducing insulin resistance through dietary modifications. This is key, and physical activity improves the metabolic switching capability necessary for accessing cellular factories. So once again, more important than what nutritional supplements you take, get your body into ketosis and keep it there. Studies suggest autophagy may begin between 24 and 48 hours of fasting in animal models. So we notice in human models, that's why we normally talk about 72 hours, 3-day fasts. Though optimal timing for human autophagy activation requires individual assessment. And once again, you need to make sure you're in ketosis and that you've been able to get into that successfully and stay there for a while before you really worry too much about trying to activate ketosis too much. Or autophagy. Biomarkers that signal restored autophagy capacity. So there are several fat indicators that help determine when cellular recycling machinery has sufficient capacity for longer fasting periods, right? Reduced fasting insulin levels reflect improved insulin sensitivity. That's why this is one of those blood tests I really do recommend is your fasting insulin levels. This allows mTOR inhibition and autophagy pathway activation during fasting. The ability to produce and sustain nutritional ketosis, right? And that's a big one. With blood ketones measuring above 0.5 millimoles a liter during fasting indicates effective fat mobilization and mitochondrial function. You don't need to get it up into the 2 or 3 range here. 0.5 is plenty to show that you're burning fat. Okay? Patients report increased energy. So if you're getting increased energy, right, then and mental clarity and reduced fatigue during fasting periods, especially that 12 to 16 hour intermittent fasting period, That's showing you that cellular energy production and autophagy function are functioning effectively. Lower systematic inflammation markers like C-reactive protein indicate reduced cellular stress and improved autophagic clearance of damaged components. So that's one of the things we look for, is that your inflammation is going down. Restoration of normal circadian rhythms and improved sleep quality serve as indirect indicators of healthy autophagy regulation. If you have trouble getting to sleep at night and staying asleep, this is usually an indication of metabolic issues and having inflammation. Well, as you lower your inflammation, you should be able to sleep better, longer, and that's a good restorative function. And of course, your subjective tolerance to longer fasting windows without excessive hunger, fatigue, or muscle loss provides practical measures of readiness for extended fasting challenges. Okay? Fasting is not something you should fear, it's something that your body is naturally built to do, right? Okay, nutritional strategies for enhanced cellular recycling. Individuals with restored autophagy capacity, so remember, you've qualified that you have restored autophagy, which means you're in ketosis and you're having the higher energy and stuff, right? Require nutritional approaches to maintain their enhanced cellular recycling machinery. Protein intake should remain moderate, around 0.8 to 1 grams per pound of lean body mass, to support tissue repair without chronically activating mTOR and suppressing autophagy. Now, understand, if you're trying to build muscle, right, which is going to be the opposite of that, then you want more protein and you want to activate mTOR, because you want activating mTOR helps build muscles. Okay, so if you're trying to build muscles, you're going to have to get on it. So you might want to cycle between times when you're building muscle and times when you're trying to enhance autophagy. All right. High bioavailable protein sources like meat and fish provide optimal amino acid proteins profiles with fewer anti-nutrients compared to plant sources. Once again, I really dislike plant proteins. They really don't do anything good for you. They're not very bioavailable and they cause all kinds of havoc. Eat meat. Okay? Eat animal meat. Key micronutrients including magnesium, B vitamins, and vitamin D, selenium, zinc, and CoQ10 support mitochondrial health. Okay, so CoQ10 is one of those supplements that a good high quality one can help. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. Energy metabolism and autophagy regulation as enzyme cofactors as well. Medium chain triglycerides from coconut oil can promote mild ketosis, supporting autophagy and providing clean energy that reduces oxidative stress. And I do like MCT, especially MCT8 oils, right? Taking a little bit helps get your ketones started. And finally, balancing nutrient intake prevents excessive mTOR activation while supporting the cellular maintenance systems that efficient recycling requires. So remember, we have this balancing act again. If you're trying to gain muscle, right? You're going to the gym, working real hard, you want to gain muscle. Well, you want mTOR activation for that, which means you're not going to be doing a lot of the of trying to get autophagy going and fasting. I normally don't suggest high amounts of building muscle with fasting, but you want to take some time. Take a week, fast for 3 days, rest a little bit before that fast period, rest a little bit after that fasting period to get you into that fasting zone, right? Like a 3-day fast, and then go back into your high protein, high workout routines. So cycle it through. Take a little break through there. Okay, clinical applications and individual variation. This understanding of fat cells as cellular factories fundamentally changes clinical approaches to fasting protocols. Extended fasts beyond 3 days require medical supervision, right? And I suggest that. But I like 3-day fasts. 3-day fasts are wonderful. Okay? Particularly for individuals, especially if you are an individual with metabolic diseases or compromised cellular recycling capacity. Once again, I normally don't suggest 72-hour fast until you know you're in ketosis for a while, that you have the cellular recycling moving on. Don't try to jump into a 3-day fast. It's usually not good for you. Genetic polymorphism affecting mitochondrial function, acyl-CoA metabolism, and neurotransmitter synthesis influence individual fasting tolerance and cellular recycling efficiency. Remember, everyone's going to be different here. So try a 12 to 16 hour fast. Try that for several days. Maybe try a 24-hour fast. Maybe try a 48-hour fast. See how you're responding to that before you do a 72-hour fast. Okay? Monitor for excessive fatigue or muscle loss or other adverse effects to help avoid overwhelming cellular systems before adequate recycling capacity develops. Don't try to do a 72-hour fast if you're not sure that your body can handle all the rebuilding it's going to be doing during that time frame. Right? Supporting lifestyles include adequate sleep, stress management, physical activity to enhance mitochondrial health and autophagy function. Make sure you're healthy before you get into that high stress environment of a 72-hour fast. It's good stress, it's good for your body, but don't jump into that if you're not used to that. The progressive training approach balances safety with efficacy, helping metabolically compromised individuals access the benefits of cellular recycling while minimizing risks. Okay, and there is a hierarchy of cellular component dismantling. Okay, once ULK1 activation initiates autophagy, cells follow a very regulated process to prioritize which components get dismantled first. Damaged, misfolded, or dysfunctional components receive priority targeting to maintain cellular health, which is good, including damaged organelles and aggregate proteins. Right? The glycolics, being more exposed to glucose damage and oxidative stress, often gets early targeting for repair or recycling when glycation alters protein structure and function. So if you're coming off of eating lots of glucose and you're in that state, the first couple times you're fasting, even short fasts, right, 12 to 16-hour fasts, they will go after all that glucose damage, which is good. You want that. Autophagy involves simultaneous dismantling of multiple cellular structures during autophagosome formation, efficiently recycling resources while maintaining homeostasis during nutrient scarcity. You don't want to start breaking down too much, right? You want your body to break down the damaged stuff first, get rid of that, and then move on. And if you're, once again, you're in a state of ketosis fairly consistently, and you are definitely feeling the benefits of having a low-carb diet, then you're probably in a good position for using this. This coordinated approach allows cells to preserve essential communication, signaling, and barrier functions while recycling damaged components to sustain energy and function. Okay, so there are implications for a metabolic health practice here. Recognizing fat cells as sophisticated cellular factories rather than simple storage units transforms therapeutic approaches to metabolic dysfunction. The cellular recycling capacity becomes as important as the stored energy content during periods of caloric restriction. Practitioners can use biomarker profiles mapping metabolic flexibility restoration to guide self-progression from intermittent fasting to extending fasting protocols. And I do like that. I like helping you try to figure out when to stop intermittent fasting and when to go into extended fasting periods. And you don't want to go to the extended fasting too quickly. Understanding the molecular switches controlling cellular factory activation allows targeted interventions to restore autophagy capacity in metabolically compromised individuals. Once again, we want to make sure you're at a good position to do this. Okay? This framework explains why metabolically healthy individuals sustain extended fasts more effectively than simple calorie calculations predict. Accessing cellular infrastructure, recycling beyond basic energy stores, the integration of cellular recycling science with clinical fasting protocols offers more precise, individualized approach to metabolic health optimization. There is some thought behind this process, okay? So keep that in mind. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you've gotten this far, please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of this. If you have any questions, leave that as well. And we are building a community here to answer your questions. If there's something you want me to cover in an upcoming video, let me know. Put it in the comment section, please. And as always, if you haven't done so, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend. It helps the channel a great deal, so thank you very much. And you're going to be helping a lot of other people. Have a great day.